Bobby Five flying solo. One more day till Sheets gets back. Didn't quite have a good opening day, even though we had the right idea, right? I mean, I liked my Dodgers stacks. I just should have played a little more Montaz than my Josiah Gray play, which did not work out, as you guys know. The strikeouts worked. Just gave up a couple bombs that made it a little impossible for me to get there. But we're on to day 2. I'm feeling good about this season. I like to ease my way into it a little bit more than most people do. I don't want to just start max entering everything. I caught up on a lot of stuff, a lot of new players, a lot of things like that. But there's still, I feel like, a lot more to figure out. And then I want to sort of see how things play this year. So the first week, I always play a little bit less. I like to play a little more on opening day, but then I play a little less most of the time. And probably going to wait a week or two before I start, launching heavier when I feel like I have a better handle on the season and how much they're using starting pitchers and stuff like that early in the year, which I guess is a good place to start. We'll go game by game, but I just want to remind everybody that I do think it's really important, like where you can, like you're spending up for pitching, but in most cases, you're going to see a very, very similar, the lower priced pitchers are almost always going to have some similar results to the top price guys, just because the way these things work, and they're not going to extend these guys on their first times out until they're stretched out. I think we have to approach things like that. So like trying to play the lower price, which is why you can see guys like Pavetta, Logan Allen at a reasonable price are projecting so well today. Anyway, I'm going to go game by game here. We can talk through it a little bit. Toronto and Tampa Bay, Savale and Bassett. I don't particularly have a ton of interest here. It's kind of a spot where Bassett usually has a longer leash than most. And I think this is like really like the time where, like maybe you could use him. Maybe we could speculate on that. So I would put Bassett as a question mark, but nothing I absolutely love with that. And I don't really love the hitting either, but I don't mind a Toronto stack if that's what you wanted to do. You can see they're getting pretty low ownership. I still think it's a pretty decent offense. And I think that you could, Vlad, Springer, especially Varsho, if he ever finds himself after the way he finished last year, that would be the side of this I'd be on. So I'd say, look, I'm open to a little Bassett, and I'm open to the Blue Jays bats, but nothing that's a priority for me here. Pittsburgh, Miami, you've got Perez and Bender. No, it's going to be the bullpen game, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, so Perez is another one that I think you could put on the list of guys who are, have a ceiling enough at this price. Miami, I think we're going to see a streaky offense out of them this year. I don't think they're like awesome or anything like that. So I have a little bit of interest in Perez. Other than that, not getting to this as like a priority hitting spot, but if you wanted to take a some cheap bats, this is a pretty decent space to do it. You can see some of the prices here. Just you've got guys hitting the middle of the order, 3,100. Leading off a 1K at 3K, but again, first base only. So probably a little bit harder to pull off, but it is really cheap. So I like this for cheap spots. I don't know that I want to go full stack here, but I think that both sides make enough sense to try and take a mini stack. If I had to pick a one-off or anything like that, I would take Jake Berger from Miami. I think that's, he's got a ton of power. You put Perez out there, and I think that's, you get a lefty against Berger. I'm open to that as like a one-off, that kind of thing. But again, not much priorities in the first couple of games going on so far. Now we've got Rodon and Javier. This is an interesting spot here. So Rodon 7,600. What if he just has that bounce back year that we're, we were so down on him last year. He was never getting there for us. This is a spot where I don't mind the idea of maybe taking a gamble or two. Just the matchups are so bad. So I probably end up on the outside looking in. The Yankees have enough strikeouts in their lineup to certainly consider Javier, but I just think there's better places to attack than trying to attack these two offenses. And speaking of which, I think both these offenses are like solid enough to certainly consider. I don't know that I want to bet that Rodon is broken. I don't know that I want to bet against Javier and a good Houston bullpen, but I do think that depending on ownership, assuming that it does stay below 10% here, I certainly think you want to get, maybe a little bit of Houston in the mix just in case, and maybe a little bit of the, anytime you want to play Judge, Stanton, et cetera. I'm never going to argue with it. Soto, et cetera. But it's just a matter of, can you get them in, and do you want to try to do it against Javier? No issue with it if you do. Again, nothing that's made a priority for me list yet. So that means my pool might be a little bit more narrow, or I'm going to spread out to some other stuff that we haven't talked about yet. Joe Musgrove and Kyle Harrison. You can see what I'm talking about. Just like the difference is like you have one guy, a 4-point difference is being treated as if it's like a must play versus a don't play kind of a thing with pitchers early in the season. A 4-point projection difference. And that's what I just think is going to happen too much. And I don't know how long they're going to let Musgrove go. They tend to be a little bit careful with their pitchers in San Diego. So a little bit of concern there. And then I guess that as far as priorities go, I like the San Diego stack. I am confused a little bit as to why maybe they're not even projecting a little bit better. I don't mind the idea of taking San Diego here. This is the first time I've actually seen a stack that I go, okay, well, that's when I can certainly talk myself into playing. Tatis, they're expensive. Tatis, Machado, etc. I would rank it like that. Like Tatis, Machado, you probably use Azakar as a value saver. Campusano is a little bit expensive as a catcher, but I do like him he's a decent enough hitter. And it's just going to be a matter of pricing. But San Diego is the first team that I would put as like, okay, I think I want to do something with this on this slate today. So everybody else is just sort of like on the outside looking in so far that we've talked about. All right, here's an interesting one. Cleveland, Oakland, Stripling, Logan Allen. I am totally okay if you want to spend down using Ross Stripling. I also think the price is too cheap for Logan Allen. So with the upside, I am probably going to be overweight on both these pitchers, but especially Logan Allen. Again, you get the value for Stripling, but I think Logan Allen actually has enough upside to get there here. And I also think Stripling is cheap enough to be viable. On the flip side of it, I don't mind the idea of some Indians against the Stripling and the Oakland garbage bullpen. Well, I'm just betting that it's going to be garbage from everything that we know of it so far. So I like the idea a little bit of Cleveland as a secondary stack, particularly obviously Ramirez, who's again expensive, hard to do with San Diego because you want to play Machado, and obviously you can't play he and Ramirez in the same lineups on DK. Laureano back in Oakland, little narrative that doesn't really mean anything, but don't mind him batting cleanup here. So I'm okay with getting like a little bit of Cleveland, more as a secondary stack, more as a 3-man, probably looking at like Laureano, depending on where Will Brennan hits. You could use Rocchio as a cheap option, but I have a little bit of interest in them as a mini stack more than a full stack. Remember, Cleveland, they don't strike out a ton, they get on base, and they don't have a ton of power. So tend to make for better secondary stacks than primaries. Guys, firing in questions and thoughts. I'll get to them at the end of the run through. Boston and Seattle, two pitchers that I have interest in tonight. I like the price on Pivetta, and I think Kirby is probably not the right time to utilize him yet. I think that the talent level is certainly there. You like getting Boston outside of Boston much more than in Boston, but I'm sort of into the idea a little bit. I don't know, of just not paying that full price for the pitchers if we can, as I keep mentioning. Hitting wise, I actually think that if you wanted to take the counter, I mean, look, we know that Pivetta has the extreme outcomes of both sides of things. I like this lineup a little bit for Seattle. It's a little tricky because you got the 2 catching options, and then you've got some, the high priced Julio Rodriguez for good reason. But I'm going to put Seattle in there as another team that I definitely have some interest in at a secondary stack and potentially a full stack. We've seen Pivetta get blown up before. I don't think we should just go away from it. If we're going to play the speculative game on whether Pivetta is really good and he's going to be owned 30%, why not get the leverage and take the other side of that and play some Seattle stacks? So I'm sort of talking myself into a Seattle as an interesting stack today. I think that's a pretty good way to go. And as you see so far, we've gone through, there's only 8 games. We've gone through 6 of them. And we haven't even seen it like a hitter that's double-digit owned yet. That's pretty wild. Now that may change by the time things actually take off, but still, it's a little wild to see that. And I think that we know the reason why, because you have Merrill Kelly and Quantrill. Merrill Kelly's going to get some ownership. I'm going to wait on that price tag. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to have the roof open tonight. You're going to have, I think, a fairly, I guess it's not quite as high owned as I would have. Let's see what they're going to be owned. Yeah, I think you're going to have a little bit more. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little higher than this for Arizona, to be honest with you, especially after the massive 14-run inning last night. But it's a good matchup. With the roof open, the stadium plays as a better hitter's park. And I'm good with the Arizona stack. I think they're more of a logical priority stack to get to. Obviously, usually you want to stack against Colorado in Colorado, but look, we don't have everything on this slate. I like the Arizona stack a little bit, and I like the idea of a contrarian Rocky stack a little bit. we've seen Kelly get hit in the past. They're very familiar with him. I don't necessarily want the full stack of the Rockies, but I do think as a mini stack, maybe you're talking about Brendan Rodgers at a cheap price tag, Chris Bryant, Charlie Blackmon, something like that is a way that I would look at potentially playing the Rockies today. But Arizona is a full go all the way for me. I think you can play it up to a 5-man. I like this stack quite a bit. Should have some ownership, but I think it's a really good spot, and I have no issue with the Arizona full stack. I have them just a little bit. I actually have them ahead of San Diego, but considering ownership, I had San Diego as a little bit more of a priority for me personally. All right, Dodgers and Cardinals. So you got Bobby Miller on the mound, who I think is going to have a breakout season. Again, not a thrilling matchup. I think St. Louis is a little tougher than people think. And Zach Thompson for St. Louis against the Dodgers. Good luck to him. We've seen the Dodgers occasionally in the past struggle with these average righties. I'm not overly worried about it today, and I think this is the obvious stacking spot is going to be the Dodgers. I'm just going to take a look at the ownership. It's actually a little lower than I thought. But I think the Dodgers are the more than likely going to score the most runs, and the way they do it tends to be very productive. You've got guys with a ton of power. They don't steal as much as you'd like. That's the one thing I'm going to point out about the Dodgers that coming into the season, it's a little bit like when you have some of these other teams. Like I was looking at yesterday, like Cincinnati, like guys like Fraley who are just going to go every single time. You know what I mean? Like we don't really have guys who steal bases in LA. So that's the one knock on the Dodger stacks all year. That's going to be we don't get that extra bonus of having the upside for the stolen bases. So I'm not going to probably get to Miller or Thompson. I do think that the Dodgers stack is definitely heavily in play for me. And I think the Cardinals are not like a bad secondary stack either. So they'd rank what, 7th for me among stacks, but still at no ownership, maybe you bump it up a little bit. So that's sort of a little, just quick look of a rundown of what I've got. I'll be live at about, I think I'll be live at 6 Eastern, and we'll go over it because we've got the 6:50 game. We'll also talk a little bit about the NBA. We're not going to be doing live NBA shows. We're not going to be doing early look NBA shows, but we'll be doing live NBA shows combined with our baseball shows every afternoon at an hour before lock. So just keep that stuff in mind. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Travis said, "Oh hell yeah, let's go!" Travis took down the NHL. Love it, buddy. Love to see that. Happy Friday to K9. Happy Friday to Travis. And weather game in Cleveland, Oakland, Cleveland. I'm not going to address it until we have better clarity. I've spent enough time in the Bay Area to know that if you try and get your reads on the weather early enough in the day, just be guaranteed that it's likely to change more often than not, more times than not. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all you very much. Please give us a like, subscribe, all that jazz, and let's make some money today. Let's have a good run. And like I said, we'll cover NBA and MLB at 6 Eastern time. Please give us a like before you get out of here. And also, we wanted to just remind everybody we have the MLB 24 code. Type in MLB 24 when signing up for TrueDFS. You get all of SaberSim's projections. You get Sheets' projections. You get Goldie's projections. You get all my content, all Rody's content. Brandon Cruz for NASCAR and sometimes basketball. Actually, we did a basketball show yesterday. And also, you've got all of DFS Chan, who does the LOL and esports whatnot. So it's a great deal. We're only charging a slight bit more than SaberSim themselves, and you get all the extra stuff that I just mentioned. So anyway, good luck to everybody today. I'll see you live at 6 Eastern. I'll have my content out a little bit later, and